Hello, I'm Dr. Barry, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about the difference between a coach and a counselor. There are lots of different types of coaches, and there are lots of different types of counselors. And so I'm going to talk about these two things in very broad terms. First, I'd like to start with the educational and licensing differences. There really are no specific standards for someone to call themselves a coach or to become a coach. Often coaches will have some type of educational or certificate program that they completed, or life experience or business experience that they use in their coaching sessions. You really should research someone before you sign up with them, and many coaches will offer a free 15 to 30 minute, sometimes 1 hour consultation to determine if they're the right fit for you. Whereas with counseling, there are minimum education requirements, typically a master's degree in some counseling related field, and there are also licensing and continuing education requirements. And so if you ever have a question about whether someone truly is licensed or not, locally we had a situation where someone was claiming to be a psychologist and they were not. So you can typically go online to search to see if someone is licensed as a counselor or as a psychologist. And like I said, there are lots of different types of counseling licenses that people can get. If you have a problem or a complaint with a licensed counselor, you can typically report those things to the licensing board. Whereas with a coach, it's a little bit more murky for if you do have an issue, who would you contact? Who would you reach out to? If they're licensed under a larger program like John Maxwell or some like national program, or if they have a national certification, there likely is some type of process you can go through to file a complaint if you had one. With counseling, there are typically specific goals that you're working towards related to a diagnosis. If you've ever seen a licensed counselor, they likely provided a diagnosis. Insurance requires a diagnosis in order to pay for treatment. The goal with coaching is typically to help you achieve your goals. And it's typically time limited, so you're normally working with a person for a specific period of time. Sometimes with counseling, it can be a little bit more open-ended depending on where people are with their goals and where they actually want to go. Within counseling, there are specific ethics that guide that relationship because the therapist is in this professional role and they want to make sure that there's no harm to the client or patient. I recently saw in a therapist group that I'm a part of that some people, when a client moves across state lines, they will call what they're doing coaching, but it's actually still counseling. And that to me is a little unethical. And so the person really should find a new therapist, and maybe that last therapist can serve as kind of an additional support or coach until they're more comfortable with their new therapist. So within coaching, sometimes you have a business coach, a personal coach, marriage or parent coach. And then within counseling, sometimes you see a marriage therapist, a play therapist, a family therapist, someone who specializes in trauma or adoption and attachment, or someone who specializes in what your major issue is. And so it's good to always ask what someone's expertise is and what type of client they typically work with, and that they're good at working with. Also within counseling, so there are licensed professional counselors, marriage and family therapists, licensed clinical social workers, psychologists, and they all fall within the therapist category, but sometimes each one of those can do something different or special. And figuring out what you really need, sometimes you might have to call and ask questions. Finding the right therapist can be very difficult. I like to let people know that you typically know within the first few sessions if the person's the right fit for you. I once heard someone say finding the right therapist is like finding the right pair of shoes. Sometimes you have to try on a few. And it can be a long process to call around and figure out who's accepting new clients, who accepts your insurance, jumping through all of those hoops. And so if you do make the decision to see someone, prepare yourself. I'm sorry. Like it may take some time to find someone, but finding the right person will be worth the search. So if you have any questions related to this topic, you can feel free to comment below, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.